Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chats. I'm Krista Harmon, a workforce development consultant with the Kent Intermediate School District, and I'm so happy to have Amy Murphy with us today. She's a manufacturing group leader, and this came out of an interest to really help young people learn about more businesses in the agribusiness sector. So we're so glad to have you, Amy.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invite, and I'm looking forward to hopefully answering a lot of questions from the individuals on this call.
Awesome. So take us back. We're going to get into what your job's all about, but I know young people love to hear what you were thinking in high school. Amy, did you think you'd grow up to be a manufacturing group leader?
Had no idea. The only thing I knew in high school was that I was decent at chemistry and I was decent at math. So I went to Michigan State University, got a degree in chemical engineering. While I was at MSU, I actually, had a couple times where I thought, is this the right path for me? But after my sophomore year, I had an internship with a different food manufacturing company and I fell in love. I was an operations intern, so I got to be part of the food industry and also part of operations. And I haven't looked back since. I've been in food manufacturing for a little over 6 years, all within the operations space, and it's absolutely been worth it.
I love that because I'm one of those people that if I would have known more about manufacturing early on, I could see myself. I just am fascinated, always watch those shows about things being made. It's very interesting to me. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, first of all, I hear that you got an internship after your sophomore year. So good for you. Tell us for the young people watching, the value of an internship and why they should pursue that.
An internship is absolutely different from an in-classroom program. No matter how many different site visits you go on, being in an internship and being there day in and day out, working on projects, getting to know, at least in operations, the individuals on the floor, that's when you're really going to learn about who you are as a leader and the path that you want to take. So I'm a very big people person. I like to be a people manager, and I learned that in operations, and I learned that in my internships. My first internship was operations. My second one was engineering, and that's what helped me decide. So if you're on the fence about what industry you want to go into, or if you're really just unsure how you are in that leadership setting, internships are huge for that. They can allow you to have that leadership opportunity and allow you to step out of your comfort zone for a short period of time to say, okay, is this the path for me or is it not the path for me?
Yeah, that's such a great thing. And I know so many people can translate that into some of those first jobs too. I do have a question, and young people always want to know, like, how do you get an internship? So did Michigan State help you with it? Did you have to go find your own leads? Tell us how that works.
So Michigan State helped me with it. They have career fairs that happen multiple times throughout the year. I happened to stop by one of the booths, and I will say I was very lucky to get an internship after my sophomore year. It was actually it was with ConAgra Foods. And it was at a location that they've never had an intern before. And so I was the first one. And so that's why they had the opening there. If, the individuals on this call or anyone, you get to that point after sophomore year and you don't have an internship, that's okay. There's so many other things that you can do. Volunteer opportunities, first off, is a great resume booster. And it also helps you if you're looking at doing more of like a people management style. You can go in and like lead a volunteer group, helping take on that supervisory task. Same thing with, you can do study abroad programs. You can, even doing work in your own hometown, whether that's a summer job or helping babysit or things like that. There's a lot of different ways that you can take the opportunities that are presented to you and be able to turn that around towards helping you in your future career growth.
And I think the one thing I want to point out, Amy, is that you took action. And I think that's the part I want young people to hear, is that you didn't sit and wait for this to come your way. You pursued it. And that means you had to probably gather some courage to even go up to that ConAgra table at that career fair, right? Because that's a setting that not a lot of us are familiar with. What do you remember about that? And what would you like to share with young people about that career fair experience?
So I will say career fair, especially at Michigan State, it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot of noise. The biggest piece of advice I'd have is get your elevator speech ready. Have that ready before you go in there. Know what's on your resume. Know what points you want to talk to. If you had a really interesting project that you led in one of your classes, if you were a club leader, different things like that. Make sure that you have that in your back pocket so that when the recruiters asks different things about, what kind of leadership experience do you have? What kind of work experience do you have? You're able to pull those out and talk about those different situations. And go in there find a quiet space to take a breath for when you get overwhelmed. There's obviously bathrooms and things like that, but you can find a corner and just everyone else is in the same boat as you. Everyone else is looking for a job as well. And it can be a little bit overwhelming, but just know that the recruiters are there. They want to talk to you. They don't want to just stand there and look around. I've been a recruiter at a career fair many times. Come talk to us. We want to talk to you. Even if you're not a right fit right now, I'm going to remember our interaction. And if you come back to me next year, I'm going to remember it, just like the other recruiters are going to.
Everyone, that's your golden tidbits right there. If you leave with nothing else, she just gave you such a great tutorial about managing career fairs. So thank you for that, Amy, for sure. So you had these two internships, one in engineering, one in operations, and that's a terminology that your people may not know. So what does operations mean?
So operations is the daily how we produce items. So I work primarily in food manufacturing. I actually work only in food manufacturing. So at my current facility right now, we make snack foods. And so we take the process of when you buy a bag of cauliflower or veggie straws at a store, that's made somewhere. Most items that you get at a grocery store now, those are made somewhere at a mass production facility. And so the operations is the physical making of the product, the physical cooking, packaging, different quality checks, different food safety checks, things like that. So that's what I manage. I manage the raw materials coming in the door and the finished product going out. Engineering is more of, you can take a couple different paths with engineering. You can go capital project engineering. So you're looking at your large scale multi-million projects, doing new line upgrades, so new equipment coming into a facility, building expansions, things like that. You can also go the process engineering route, which is more taking a look at the process and how do we optimize it? How do we eliminate waste? How do we make it so we can get more product out in the same amount of time? Both are absolutely enjoyable. It just depends on where you want to go within your engineering career. If you choose to go engineering, as someone with an engineering background, I could have gone many, many different directions. I know individuals that have gone into sales, that have gone into operations like me, that have gone into project engineering. So lots of different options. Just because you major in something in school doesn't mean that automatically tells you what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. You get to choose that.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, such a great tidbit for you to share, Amy. When you went into those internships, that was the value, right? You started to see what different jobs were behind the scenes. And it's such an important piece of exploration, young people, to do that. What did you know about operations that you could tell that was a better fit for you versus the engineering side? Was it a personality trait or just the schedule every day? What was it about?
For me, it was more the personality trait. So after I graduated from MSU, I started with Cargill in Lake Odessa, Michigan, as a production management associate, which is their entry position before you move into a production supervisor and therefore thereon. And for me, I'm a big people person. I'm a big people leader. I like the daily operations. It can be a little tough, as I was late to this meeting because I was caught up at work. It's going, like, you are constantly going. Operations has to run every single day. You want to make sure your product is running. You don't want to have any equipment downtime. And with that is you also have a team. There are people there. There are people who are running this line. And so you want to make sure that you're providing for their needs, giving them the resources that they need. Those individuals may want to move up and gather more responsibility. You help coach them. And that's what I appreciated about operations and why I continue to stay within operations. I tried at my previous position to go into more of an engineering role, and I realized I got very lonely because I love operations and seeing people, and just knowing at the end of the day, when you see the product that you got out, the fact that everybody went home in the same or a better condition that they came into work, knowing that you made a quality product, that is what motivates me every single day to go into work, is knowing I'm going to make a product that I would be proud to give to my family and friends.
That's wonderful. You're touching on values, and that's so great to hear that that's what motivates you every day, and that's why you enjoy your job. I love that. So you mentioned your first job right out of college. Again, we won't spend a lot of time on this, but young people want to know, like, how do you get that first job? Again, was it a job fair? Was it a job board? Did you go to Indeed.com, networking?
So it was another career fair. It was booth that I walked up to and hit it off with the recruiter really well. And he was actually a former MSU grad. So that's why you'll see a lot of alumni come out, because it's easier to connect with an alumni than just like a random person that you would see. And so I talked with them. They invited me on site for an on-site interview. And during that interview is when I absolutely fell in love with the company. I got to meet who would end up being my future boss. Her and I had a wonderful conversation. I went on a site tour. So the career fair is really helpful with that. In my current position with Snackcraft, I actually got this job by reaching out to the CEO through LinkedIn. And so I never thought that I would be, utilizing LinkedIn in that capacity, because I had it kind of ingrained in my head. There's job applications and career fairs. And to me, career fairs were only for college. There's so many different avenues to get a job. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, I'm looking for a change. I see you guys are opening up in Grand Rapids. What do you got? And so he invited me on site. I did a site tour with him. We kind of talked through different options, and they ended up creating the job that I'm in now, because they were just growing. So it's never a bad opportunity to reach out, because the worst you're going to get is, no, we're okay right now. If you reach out, you're at least doing your due diligence.
Yeah, again, that's giving us lots of insights into how you roll. So again, being proactive sounds like a great takeaway for young people today. So why don't you give us, I know every day is probably different, but give us a sample of what do you do when people ask you, what is your job like? What are you doing?
It changes every day. I'll go over today. So today, got into work. We had 3 different products that we needed to run. And so we are a startup. So I do actually have somebody that works alongside me. She will be moving to second shift. So I do have a little bit of a help there. I start off every day with a huddle with my team. I talk through what our plan is for the day, what different safety concerns we might have, what different maintenance items are happening across the facility that may impact them. And we go from there. We start up production. I was able to start working on a big project that we have going on next week. I created the staffing plan for that, worked with the other managers across the facility to ensure that we had all of our resources aligned, all of our ducks in a row. And then I had another meeting on a project that I was leading. So I'm leading, if any of you are familiar with the continuous improvement 5S, it's a more of just like an organizational tool. I'm launching that at our facility. I answered a lot of production schedule questions today. I went through and built the schedule for next week with our planner. There's a lot of different things I'm in. So a lot of my day consists of the daily operations, safety. Safety is a huge thing in operations. I'm on the safety committee within my company. And so we did some work with that. I did work with food safety. What's crazy about operations is you work with everybody. It doesn't matter. You don't just work with one group or another. You're working with maintenance, warehouse, quality, food safety, personal safety, finance. You're working with all of it. And that's, again, another thing I enjoy about it is no day is the same. Yesterday, I spent most of my day on the production floor dealing with production issues and equipment issues we're having, while today I was able to take more of a strategic planning approach. And so it can get overwhelming when you have multiple days in a row of equipment failures, but those days don't last forever. And you know that you're going to be able to go back and forth with your responsibilities.
And it sounds like you really enjoy that change in variety too, and some of that fast pacedness versus just sitting in an office.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Because a lot of young people, when we talk about manufacturing, first of all, they don't know about food manufacturing, even though we literally all eat something from a package.
Absolutely.
What are some of those myths about manufacturing that you'd like to dispel? A lot of parents don't really think, oh, I don't want my kid going into manufacturing, but why should they consider it?
So first one off the bat, this is geared towards 50% of the population. Manufacturing is not just a man's job. I have been in operations. I've been what I like to say, a strong female leader within operations. And when I was at my old facility, there was only about 3 female supervisors out of a group of 15. And by the time I left, we got up to about that halfway point with some just concentrated recruiting efforts and different promotions throughout the facility. But it's not just a man's job. Manufacturing is for everybody. Manufacturing is at manufacturing. And so if you're willing to take the time to learn the process and learn how to be a strong people leader, then operations is a pathway for you. Another myth is that it doesn't have to all just be, I know when you think of manufacturing, you might think of like auto manufacturing because that's what we're used to in Michigan. There's such a variety. You can have your medical equipment, which is a very clean, sterile environment. You have to worry about many different things than you do with food manufacturing than with automotive manufacturing. And so if you get into one sector, let's say you start in food manufacturing and you're like, this isn't really for me. You don't have to just leave manufacturing altogether. You can go to manufacturing at a different discipline. You could go into automotive, you could go into furniture, you can go into textiles with clothes, things like that. There's so much manufacturing across the United States and across the world that you don't have to limit yourself to one industry. You can expand out as much as you want to.
Sounds like there's so much opportunity for growth and change, like you said. If a young person was finding this interesting, what would you recommend as some of those early steps while they're in high school? Or is there a college degree that you would do differently that would get you more directly, or was your path the right way? What would you recommend for somebody?
Personally, my path took me into the direction I needed to. My junior year, I realized I probably wanted to go into food science, but the change was going to be too much of a change with my curriculum that I decided to continue through with chemical engineering because I knew I would be able to get into operations that way. Like I said, you can go into any degree, but then go whatever pathway you want to. And so for those that are interested at whatever, if you go to a technical trade school, you'll have lots of opportunities to work within operations, because within manufacturing, there's also a need for lots of technical positions like our electricians, our plumbers, our maintenance techs, HVAC techs, things like that. So that is one pathway that you can go. If you go more of that university, four-year university, going for that bachelor's degree, I would just take the opportunity, make sure you're talking with a career counselor on what you would like to do, attend whatever job fairs come up, even if it's not for your discipline, because then you can go and maybe talk to companies that aren't at other career fairs. The third thing I would do is many colleges have lots of employers come on and they do little talks or they have a booth. Go up and talk to them at those points, because that company is there because they want to talk to you. They're not just showing up for no reason to get out of work for the day. They're still working. They want to talk to you. They want to hear more about what you want to do and things like that. And a final piece of advice is reach out. If you don't know like what a company does, feel free to reach out. There is some kind of contact that is on their website. You'll find that most company emails kind of follow the same dictation. So like my email is very similar to like the rest of my company's emails. So it's like a.murphy. So once you find that out, you can reach out to anybody within the company. And so just take that step, reach out and ask those questions, because again, the worst thing that's going to happen is you won't get a response, but at least you put it out there. And the best thing that's going to happen is someone's going to reach out to you and say, hey, it's really cool that you're interested in this. I see you're a sophomore at Central Michigan University. How about we talk internships? I could get you an internship that way.
Fantastic. You mentioned food science. I think some young people don't know what that's about. Can you give us a quick definition of that?
Yes. So food science is a major that you can have at most schools that dive into more of the molecular and the scientific side of food manufacturing. So our food scientist that we have at my facility, she went to Michigan State University. She studied food science. And so what she does is a company will come to her and say, we want this product. We don't know what goes into it. We don't know how to make it. We just want this to exist. And so she then works with their usually they have an R&D or research and development individual. She works with them to mold and make the product like they want. So she'll do it benchtop, she'll do it small scale in hers, and then she figures out how to advance it up to mass production. And so food science is a really good step if you're more interested in that, building from the ground up. That is an absolute option for you. But you can also take food science and move it into a food safety or quality position. And so you're monitoring the quality of the product that's coming out each day. Our customers do we have a similar product from day to day? Our customers going to be satisfied with this product? You can also go a food safety route, which is, are we making sure that we're following all of our standards and we're not getting any of our consumers sick with the products that we have coming out? Again, you can also go to operations. So food science is one of those where it's definitely you're in the food industry, but you can still go so many different directions with it.
Yeah, I always found it fascinating, like that somebody had to invent Doritos. And
Yeah.
that's like, and a high school student, I remember thinking like, I would like to be part of that. And I remember exploring food science, but there were some things that a teacher said, well, you wouldn't want to do that, and discouraged me. But it's like, I just look back like, oh, would I've liked it? Because I'm a people person too. And I think there's a lot of myths around where that has to happen, right?
Yeah. Food manufacturing is very interesting. My first tour with Cargill, it's an egg processing facility. So like an egg burrito that you might get at McDonald's, or one of the McDonald's sandwiches with like the folded egg patty. That's made in Lake Odessa, Michigan. Like anytime you eat it in Grand Rapids, that is made in Lake Odessa, Michigan. And the process of watching all of that product get made, I could describe it to you and you wouldn't believe me. Like you would say, no way, there's no way they do it like that. But mass food manufacturing is this wild art. And I'm a nerd about it. So obviously I'm freaking out about it. But there's so many different things that go into a mass production you don't even think about until you're in the situation and you're like, wow, this is intense. And that's what makes me really proud about being in the food industry is I understand everything that goes into it and I have more of an appreciation for it.
Yeah, so we won't ask you about like what foods don't you eat, but we won't go into that today.
Really nothing. I've watched so many manufacturing processes and I'm like, yeah, that looks safe. As long as they're following their food safety, I'll eat it.
Okay, good. How does this transfer to the global market? Are your skill sets something then you could take to other countries, or you have to do certain licenses or training here to meet our FDA type of regulations? Tell us about that side.
Yeah, so internationally, there's going to be a lot of different regulations that you have to follow. And so if you choose to go somewhere outside of the United States, you just have to understand what their laws were and how it impacts you. But within manufacturing, you can go everywhere. I've looked at positions in Vietnam. I've looked at positions in Germany. Like, for example, Cargill, global company, you can work anywhere. And so I actually had a former coworker that worked in the United Kingdom for 3 years, helping start up one of their facilities there. So with manufacturing, there's a lot of different ways that you can go with it. And so if you do want to do that global route, manufacturing has an option for you.
Wonderful. Now, young people love to know your favorite, which we just saw you geek out a little minute ago. So we understand what you love, but are there anything that you want young people to know about some of the challenges or things that you don't like?
Some of the challenges that I don't like about my job. There are items that are out of my control. I can't control when a motor decides to die. I can't control when an operator forgets to remove something and we end up going down for it. And so those are situations where I could easily get frustrated and angry, and I choose not to, because I can't go back and change it. I can't go back and fix whatever's happening. All I can do is worry about what I do going forward. And this is a piece of advice that I give to a lot of individuals that I interact with or individuals that I've mentored is you can't control a situation, no matter how hard you try. You can't control it, especially if somebody else is a part of it. What you can control is how you react to it. And that's what people are going to look at you for and remember you by. So I go into every situation, try to keep it calm, cool, and collected, and understand that we're going to get through this. It may take us a while. We're going to get through this. It's going to suck for a little bit. It'll be okay. And that's how I built up my reputation at Cargill and now at Snack Craft as the individual you go to when you have a problem, because I'm going to help you through it and we're going to get through it together. And operations, it can be stressful, especially when, you have multiple production lines. At one point I had 7 production lines, which is about 150 individuals. And I think we were making about 500,000 pounds of product at a time, an hour. And it got overwhelming at times, but you're not alone. You work with many other individuals. I have a support system outside of work that I can go to if I'm feeling a little bit stressed out, but ultimately just take a deep breath. And as long as everybody's safe, that's what matters at the end of the day.
You've been a fantastic role model, Amy, and I've absolutely loved hearing someone who's passionate about their work and really introducing us to a field that a lot of us don't think about or know about. With really our last 10 seconds, is there anything you'd like to do just as far as encouragement to young people or their school counselors?
Encouragement. there's so many different options out there. If you don't think that any of you don't want to go into business, you don't want to be a lawyer, whatever that is, there's so many different options. And I'm not saying it just has to be manufacturing, but everything that's produced that you see in a store, in a retail store, in a grocery store, you buy online, somebody had to make that. And it's not all made overseas. There's a lot of stuff made in the United States. And so if you're interested in getting into a company that, or sorry, into an industry that is helping grow the United States and the United States economy, manufacturing within the United States is a huge thing to get into and something that you should be proud of if that's the, direction you decide to go.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amy, for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.